We're here with Dave Spence, the Republican candidate for governor. Mr. Spence, we're thrilled to have you in Poplar Bluff, and we'll just start with the question that's on folks' mind. Why are you running for governor?
Well, I see I can really make a difference. My skill set is to be a true leader, and I'm a problem solver, and I think that's two things that we need in this state badly. We need skilled leadership at the head of the state, where I don't think we're doing right now. I would lead from the front, and I think Jay Nixon is one that leads playing defense. And also, I think my skill set of proven track record of job creation, problem solver, empathetic, I think is what this state needs. I'm tough but fair, and I think we've been kicking the can down the road on some important issues, on our budget, on our taxation policies, and our business policies in this state. And I think we have a budget crisis that has been padded and has been masked by taking stimulus funds for the last 3 years. And what a shocker. We have a budget crisis, and we should have been addressing this 3 years ago.
One thing that we've heard, some of our readers have pitched to us in stories is Jay Nixon seemed to be a pretty popular governor. And while he is in the same party with a very unpopular president in our reading area, what is your strategy to defeat him?
Well, I think, first of all, he's been living in an aquarium. And when you live in an aquarium, you're not in the real world, so you don't see real-world problems. And, I mean, if you've gone through 2D, you're now in your third Department of Economic Development Director in 3 years. The number one thing we need in this job is we need more taxpayers and not necessarily not any more taxes. And so the easiest way we could do that is get people back to work. And I think there's plenty of jobs, like just down in your area. I think the economy's doing pretty well. To answer your question specifically about how to defeat him, I think the truth needs to come out, that he does not do anything on his own. He's surrounded by 3 lawyers in a perch and waiting for and looking at every poll and see if it'll get votes before he makes a decision. And that's no way to run a governorship. You've got to be bold, you've got to be out there, and you don't necessarily be Mr. Photo Op like he is. And I would just be one of the most visible and open leaders that this state has ever had.
You mentioned economic development directors. It's recently the newest one was just announced this year. Coming off the Mamtech scandal, and with that in mind, what would you look for in a director of the Department of Economic Development?
Well, I was just at Mamtech a week ago and visited, and it's a tragedy, and I really feel bad for the people of Moberly. First of all, I would go for a pro, and for somebody who's an A player, not a double A player, put it in sports terms. And I think that you've brought a knife to a gunfight when you put somebody in there who's never had to be a job creator themselves. And what I would do is I would go out and hire an A player. But also, let me take it back. I think that it's not the role of government to create jobs. It's the role of government to create the atmosphere and the feeling that businesses can thrive. There's 133,000 individual businesses in this state. And I think that they all have some of the same issues. And it's not just big corporations. It's barbershops, it's the church, it's the hospital. It's everything in your community is a business. And there's loopholes within our legal system where frivolous lawsuits, workman's comp reform, the second injury fund, I could go on, are areas of exposure that businesses have. And the uncertainty is the enemy of business. And we've got to make sure that we close all the gaps where people could have uncertainty about hiring that additional person, buying that extra machine, buying the building next door, all those things that will get people employed and thus more taxpayers.
You mentioned business. I think the one thing folks around here have said, your background's in business. Can you fill in some of the holes? What exactly have you done? What brought you here?
Well, this could take about 20 minutes, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But I bought a business when I was 26, when I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and 12 banks said no, and a 13th one said yes. And it was a small plastic manufacturing company that made plastic bottles for pharmaceutical companies in downtown St. Louis. And we had 15 employees and $350,000 in sales the first year in 1985. And we built that over time, and I've always said the harder you work, the luckier you get, and so I've been really lucky, and we built it into a big company by any stretch of the imagination, more than my imagination could ever fathom in 1985, into a $200 million company with 800 employees. So I've got the school of hard knocks, and as I always say, I have my master's in real-world business and of running a business. And so, hiring and firing and signing personal guarantees and things that business owners are used to, that they have to take the risk. And so we built it up into a nice big business, and I was very proud of it. And as I always joke, it took me 26 years to become an overnight sensation. But I sold the business in September of 10, and I resigned. I stepped down as of December 1st to run full-time for governor because I saw an opportunity where somebody with real-world experience, practical experience, 2 feet on the ground, common sense thinking, needs to come back into our government and our state and get it going from neutral into first gear, because we are not an A player. If you look at Missouri Incorporated, we are flunking. We are flunking as Missouri Incorporated. We have a budget crisis. We've cut back on education to the bone. We've cut back on basic services to the bone. And the status quo government is not working, and we need to try something different.
I thought it was interesting that you announced when you did for governor, when there was still talk of other people in the race. What your experience? What actually was that? It can't be easy to get from. It's easier to get from St. Louis to Poplar Bluff, but it's not easy to get from Jefferson City to Poplar Bluff. You must have some kind of burning desire. Have you always been involved in politics? Is it something that's just come to you, or?
No, I've been to a lot of fundraisers and met a lot of people that run for office, and I had the privilege of hearing Chris Christie, who's a very direct, tell it like it is type of guy, governor from New Jersey, and I thought, take away the New Jersey accent, a little bit of weight, and that was me, but his style was exactly mine. It's good news or bad news, face the music, tell it like it is, don't sugarcoat it, and I think people are starving for just honesty. And I think they're starving for good ethics and somebody who represents all 5.9 million Missourians. And I'm the guy. I know I'm a problem solver. I'm a leader. I did not have any desire this time last year to run for governor, but I'm one of those citizens that I can't sit idly by and watch us rot anymore as a state. It's an insult to our ancestors that worked so hard to get us to where we are today. And I give you my word is I will work as hard as any governor we've ever had in this state to do what's right for all Missourians and not just special interests.
A couple issues before the legislature now. Right to work. Where do you come down on right to work?
Well, if it were on my desk, I'd sign it.
Terrific. There's a problem right now with education funding. I wouldn't ask you the details of it, but when you sit down to do education funding, what are some principles that you'll take in reconciling the education budget if you're governor?
Well, I think you could only ask 2 people in the whole state how to figure out education funding, because I think that's about the only 2 people that understand it in Jeff City. I'm not going to take that one on because I don't understand it exactly, but I think we do waste a lot of money in education, and I think we need to start looking at education as a vital piece of economic development and the core of our state. We've cut it to the core, and I think we also need to work, there needs to be accountability within the communities. I think we need to decentralize the decision-making. I think merit pay and tenure needs to be decided on a local basis. And I think we also, some of the teachers' unions need to realize that progress needs to happen, and it's going to happen with or without them. And I think we need to hold people accountable. And, a lot of it, we need to hold parents accountable, too, to be involved in their kids' educations, and I think we forget about that a lot of times. And, I do think we need to look at schools and have a grading system, and the teachers that aren't moving the needle with the kids need to decide if they need to find a different career path.
Do you think that's an advantage you have? Education funding has been a problem going back, decades, maybe forever, I don't know. But do you think your lack of time in Jefferson City might help you with a fresh perspective on a problem that's for sure been reoccurring for the last 3 or 4 decades?
Well, I think for, I've been, I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but remember the show Columbo with Peter Falk and the trench coat. That's what I've been doing since I've gotten involved. And, just one more question. And I've been probably driving everybody crazy, but I've been asking why and why not a lot. And the reason is I don't have this built-in 20-year knowledge of, that's Joe, and he's from, Dexter, and he should think like this or that. I mean, I'm looking at this and saying, why aren't we looking at a second reactor at Callaway? Why aren't we giving the Highway Commission the ability to look at options for our roads? Why aren't we looking at a different type of DED path? Why is Department of Natural Resources such a pain in the neck to everybody in the state? I mean, those things just drive me crazy, and I see people just accepting status quo, and I'm looking at it and saying, why? And I just think we need to raise our game in the state, and I'm willing to go out in a line of fire and maybe ask too many questions, but I'm going to keep asking why until we move the state ahead.
Let us ask you that just one more question. Yesterday, the state Democratic Party flooded the airways with questions about your college education. I guess there was most folks thought you had an economics degree, and it came out that it was actually a home economics degree.
Right.
What's your response to the hullabaloo around your education?
Well, let me set the facts straight. I have never once denied that I got a consumer economics degree through the home ec school in Missouri. Okay, I'm 53. Okay, this happened 31 years ago. So let's keep it in perspective. Early on, there was a piece of literature that once somebody made about December 6th when I first decided. I didn't catch the mistake. It said business school. I should have caught it. I will take full responsibility for it. And, that's something you don't hear from people. I'm CEO of this campaign. I should have caught it. I didn't. It's typical politics now. Everybody's fanning the flames. And, life goes on. I think my record out of school speaks for itself.
That was the last question we have is, several of our readers who may have seen something about this say, apparently you've been an incredibly successful businessman. What is your take on that? How has higher education helped you become the successful businessman that you became?
Well, I don't know if it necessarily did. I think I probably wasted the opportunity in college, and I probably took maybe things a little bit for granted, and looking back, it's maybe a regret, but you can't live your life looking in the rearview mirror. But, I think that we make a mistake in education to thinking everybody needs to go to a 4-year school. And I think we need to be teaching life skills to our students in this state, and not everybody's destined to be a teacher, a lawyer, whatever. I mean, people have different skill paths, and for me, I wasn't that. I'm more street smart than book smart, and maybe I look back and I could have done better. But gosh, I can't. I'm not going to armchair quarterback something that happened 31 years ago.
Well, last thing, tell us about your wife and family.
I have a wife, a beautiful wife that I fell in love with at first sight, Susie. And we have 4 kids. Logan, oldest, is 20 in college, and I have 3 younger girls. And senior, junior, and an 8th grader, and I've been married for 21 years, and we live in St. Louis. But I know sometimes that's an issue with outstate, but I will tell you, I'm a Missourian first and foremost.
Anything else you'd like to tell our readers?
No, I'm a 7th generation Missourian, and I just really want to do the right thing. And if it's not legal to do it, but I would do it for free, because I want to give back to the state. And I just really feel like this is the right thing to do, and I just can't sit idly by and watch our generation possibly blow the biggest opportunity in the history of the country, both on a federal and state level. I just can't look in the mirror and sleep at night knowing that I had a chance to do something, and I didn't do it.
Dave Spence, Republican candidate for governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.